Hello, my name is Marc Leique, and I'm a concerned citizen. Honorable Mayor Porter, City Council, thank you for the opportunity to speak. Just a few moments ago, something caught my attention with the presentation that I believe Mr. Oki made with regard to one of your police officers, I believe Al Magrudo. Is that correct? Alejandro Magrudo? And I know that this is a comment section, but I also know that this issue has been brought forth to the council before, and the legalities of the accusations made about Officer Magrudo have been presented to most all members of the council. And I was wondering, I know this is a comment section from the public, but is there a chance that we could get some sort of feedback with regard to this issue, since it has come up numerous times? And we as a society down here in Southern Florida, we address corruption inside our political realms quite often. I'm new to this state as of 3 years. I moved here 3 years ago. And it was shocking to me as an ex-sheriff's deputy, the number of times that the word corruption is listed hand in hand with either the police or our public officials. And for my part, it's hard when there's no feedback. And so we come to these public meetings and we anticipate some sort of resolution, or at least some sort of recognition that these issues are real and true. And I was just hoping that there would be some sort of address or rebuttal with regard to this particular issue, because I've heard it a number of different times. Police that have been mentioned inside IA, inside other departments, officers that have been named with regard to corruption, destruction of records, harassment, false accusations,
Mayor,
false statements.
I must object to this because, again, specific names of personnel are being mentioned without people being here to defend themselves. It's not appropriate for people to be smeared in public with half-truths and half-facts, and this is just not appropriate. It's not fair to the individuals to be attacked in public on the floor without any opportunity to defend themselves, and to have people come that do not have a tenth of the facts to come here and publicly accuse people. It's just completely inappropriate.
With regard to
Mark,
that,
let me ask you one question.
Sir.
Could you put your address on the record, please?
Yes, I will. Although, again, as the first speaker came forward, there are issues of reprisal that people in this community are hesitant about. But 1523 North Bluebird Lane is my address. For further information, or if you'd like to speak to me further, that'd be great. I'd love to talk to anyone who'd come by. But again,
Mayor, if I could just also mention for the record that some of the individuals that have spoke about these specific issues have submitted documentation, or at least letters and emails, to the police department, to internal affairs, to the state attorney's office, to the county police. They have made their case, and they've had numerous conversations with a whole host of law enforcement, and they have the information they have. And so nobody has ignored them. They have made their case, and in most cases, people that they're accusing have not been charged with anything. They have not been, so to try them on the floor of this council is not really appropriate.
But with regard to Florida statutes and law, many of those statutes have not been followed in the investigation process because of people hiding behind this cloak of, oh, well, we have this policy or we have that SOP, and instead of following the law and the legalities of what the Florida public has voted on and said, hey, this is what we need to do in order to maintain some accountability with our police force, they have instead decided to fall back on policy that either doesn't exist or procedures that do not fall in line with Florida statute. And so when people come forward and say, hey, we'd really like some answers to this, because this has not been addressed correctly by the state. It has not been addressed correctly by the police department. It has not been addressed correctly by even, I believe, Mayor Porter. This is a serious concern. When you have the men and women who are set aside to protect and serve, who are hiding behind a cloak of false policy, and they get away with actually preying upon those that they're supposed to serve, you're in a police state. There's no accountability. When you say, oh, well, we have this procedure, and it doesn't fall in line with Florida statute, that's a problem. That deserves public comment. That deserves a public address with regard to that and an answer to it.
Let me get Mr. Williams. Mr. Williams.
Thank you so much, Mayor. Let me ask a question. Even in the decorum policy, is this the same that the county has adopted as well? So what we are looking at now is the same policy in which the county, Miami-Dade County, uses within their integrity of their process of running meetings. So we're just really following the county. Am I right, Mr. Attorney?
I haven't compared it word for word, but it's very close. In other cities, this language was taken from other cities who use it. And the mayor and I have had long discussions about this policy. The purpose of it is to set a tone for the meeting. It's not intended to be penal. It's not intended to cut people off. But on the other hand, it is intended to set a tone for people of what we expect and what we don't expect. And the mayor and I have had, long conversations about how this will be enforced, and that it needs to be enforced, very sparingly. The idea is, I know that from the comments that I had from the mayor, he is committed to an open dialogue, and this is not intended to cut that off. But at some point, the dialogue does cross the line and becomes disruptive to the meeting, and that's the purpose of the policy.
And I apologize if I was disruptive. And again, you brought up the term slanderous, and I beg to differ. No comment that was made here was slanderous to anyone. Not that I'm aware of. I know that a name was mentioned, but if you're going to slander somebody, you have to speak falsely. And because of the amount of evidence with regard to that, and public record evidence with regard to that officer, none of the statements that were made were slanderous at all. So if there is public record stating that an officer has done this and done that and has lied and has caused accidents and has continually broken the law, lied to superiors, lied to judges, falsified statements, and that's a matter of public record, then that is not slander, sir. Am I wrong?
Mayor, I think the people that have come up to speak believe in public discourse, and I respect that. I also respect the right of employees who have a right to not have their reputations smeared in a public meeting. There are avenues for these individuals if they have criminal complaints against any individual that works for the city, which I understand they have gone through the process. They've afforded themselves of all of the avenues that are available to them to make their complaints against city employees. And again, I would just say nobody's been arrested, nobody's been indicted. So just because somebody makes an accusation doesn't mean that it's true. It doesn't mean that the person is guilty. It doesn't mean that it's right for an employee to have their reputations dragged through the mud at a public meeting. That's not an equal playing field here. That's not fair. So I would just say that if somebody wants to express themselves, terrific. I think, Mayor, you've done everything you can to encourage that. But on the other hand, if somebody wants to name a name of an employee and then accuse them of all kinds of wrongdoing as if it is fact, when in fact nobody's determined that there's anything that they're saying that is even true, I just don't think that. I think that's a violation of the employee's rights.
However, the public does deserve the right to know who they're being protected by. Alejandro Magruder was suspended for 120 days at least from the Hialeah Police Department. He was dismissed for misconduct issues, as many as 9 misconduct issues. He was almost held in contempt. I mean, his suspension record is a matter of public interest. It is also public record. Therefore, there is no accusation that is unfounded. This is all a matter of fact and public record. So, Mr. Mayor, how did we wind up hiring an individual with such a poor record of public service to where he was dismissed from the Hialeah Police Department and is now supposed to serve our community here and has not done so in a way that is ethical, moral, and it does not fulfill his obligation as an officer of the law? Do we have an answer to that as a public body that is acceptable to us? We haven't gotten that.
Okay.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.